In the fall of 2004, a devastating accident on a rural Ohio road set the stage for one of the most infamous controversies in modern Christian publishing. A story about faith, family, and fabrication. Kevin and Alex Malarkey were driving home from church when their car collided with another vehicle. Kevin was thrown from the wreckage, but he survived with minimal injuries. 6-year-old Alex wasn't so fortunate. The crash left Alex with an internal decapitation, a catastrophic injury that separated his skull from his spine. A helicopter rushed him to Columbus Children's Hospital, and doctors prepared his family for the worst. The coroner had even been called to the scene. Against all odds, Alex survived. For 2 months, he lay in a coma while his family prayed for a miracle. When Alex awoke, he couldn't move. The accident had left him a quadriplegic, requiring full-time care. But what made Alex's story remarkable wasn't just his survival, it was the story he told upon waking up. He described visions of heaven, angels, and even encounters with Jesus. Those early whispers of the supernatural would soon captivate the Christian world. 6 years later, The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven hit bookshelves, claiming to be a true account of Alex's journey to the afterlife. Co-authored by Alex and his father Kevin, the book became a phenomenon, selling over 1 million copies and riding the wave of the heaven tourism genre, alongside titles like Heaven is for Real and 90 Minutes in Heaven. But within a few years, the Malarkeys' story unraveled spectacularly, exposing a family torn apart by exploitation, theological tension, and conflicting versions of the truth. In The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven, Alex described a vivid and fantastical version of the afterlife. The book painted heaven as a place filled with shimmering lakes, rivers, and fields of grass, where peace reigned and divine glory radiated from every corner. He recounted meeting 150 angels with fantastic wings, their presence described as simultaneously majestic and comforting. Jesus appeared to Alex sitting on a throne near a scroll that detailed the end times, a scene that captured the imagination of millions of readers. The portrayal of the devil was equally vivid, a grotesque figure with 3 heads, blood-red eyes, mouldy teeth, and fiery hair, an embodiment of evil that seemed torn from biblical nightmares. These descriptions were not just embellishments, they were the emotional core of the narrative that made the book resonate. Readers were drawn to the tangible sense of divine reassurance it offered, painting a picture of an afterlife where suffering ceased and loved ones could be reunited. For devout Christians, it wasn't just a story, it was confirmation of their deepest hopes. The book became a spiritual anchor for many, promising a vision of heaven that felt both real and attainable. The book was marketed as a miraculous, faith-affirming tale. Tyndale House, a major Christian publisher, positioned it as proof of the afterlife, using its compelling descriptions and personal testimony to promote it across Christian bookstores and churches. The timing was perfect. Alex's heavenly journey fits seamlessly into a cultural moment when stories of divine encounters were in high demand. Readers devoured the narrative, finding comfort in its depictions of eternal peace, protection, and the existence of a higher plan. Behind the scenes, however, not everything was as heavenly as it seemed. Beth Malarkey, Alex's mother, was uneasy about the book from the start. In fact, she claimed she never wanted it written at all. After Alex's accident, she had devoted herself to his recovery, becoming his full-time caregiver while managing the family's 3 younger children. Kevin, who held sole copyright to the book, handled its promotion and the public storytelling. Beth's objections were buried under the book's success. But by 2011, cracks began to show. That year, Alex, then a preteen, posted a cryptic comment on the book's official Facebook fan page. One of the most deceptive books ever. His comment was deleted and he was banned from the page. Around the same time, Beth began writing blog posts expressing her frustration. She warned readers that Alex was being exploited and that the book contained significant inaccuracies. But her complaints fell on deaf ears. In a blog post from that period, Beth described her confusion over the book's creation. She claimed Kevin had overruled her objections, meeting with literary agents and publishers despite Alex's fragile health. Much of the material attributed to her in the book, she said, was taken from her online recovery journal without her permission. Alex, meanwhile, had never even read the book. The Malarkey household was already under strain before the book's publication. Financial troubles loomed large, with Kevin detailing missed mortgage payments and unpaid medical bills in his early chapters. But the real fracture came as their marriage began to disintegrate. Beth and Kevin divorced in 2018 after years of tension. Kevin moved out and Beth retained custody of Alex, who continued to need intensive care. The royalties from the book, which had earned around $1 million, were gone. Kevin said much of the money went toward Alex's care and donations to Christian charities, including a $30,000 gift to his church. But Beth insists that poor financial decisions left her and Alex destitute. Today, she says, they are on the verge of homelessness. In January 2015, Alex, now a teenager, broke his silence. He wrote an open letter to a conservative Christian blog, Pulpit and Pen, disavowing the book in no uncertain terms. "I did not die. I did not go to heaven," Alex wrote. "I said I went to heaven because I thought it would get me attention. People have profited from lies and continue to." The letter was a bombshell. Within days, Tyndale House pulled the book from shelves. The scandal drew widespread media attention, with headlines mocking Alex's last name, Malarkey, as fitting the fabricated tale. The media frenzy was fueled by a combination of outrage and disbelief. How could such a highly publicized and influential book be based on a lie? Many saw it as a cautionary tale of the dangers inherent in mixing religious faith with financial motives. Others viewed Alex as a victim of manipulation, a child caught up in a whirlwind beyond his control. Kevin Malarkey, the book's primary promoter, went silent and refused media requests, so thoroughly that the Washington Post mistakenly reported that he had died. His sudden disappearance from public life only added to the mystery surrounding the scandal. Some speculated that Kevin's silence indicated guilt or regret, while others believed he was biding his time, waiting for the controversy to subside. Kevin later told journalist Ruth Graham that he hadn't spoken out because God instructed him to remain silent. Alex either lied when he was 6 or when he was 18, Kevin said, maintaining that he still believed his son's original story. To Kevin, the book represented a genuine experience, one that he believed had strengthened the faith of countless readers. Even as the backlash mounted, Kevin held firm, insisting that the events Alex described were true, at least to the extent that a 6-year-old could understand them. The revelation and ensuing fallout highlighted the complex dynamics within the Malarkey family. Alex's disavowal wasn't just a public rejection of the book, it was a personal repudiation of his father's actions. Kevin's refusal to accept Alex's retraction only deepened the family's divide. For Beth, the revelation was bittersweet. She had spent years warning anyone who would listen that the book was misleading, but the damage had already been done. Now she and Alex were left to deal with the financial and emotional aftermath of a story that had spiraled out of control. As the public spectacle played out, the theological implications of Alex's retraction reverberated through the evangelical community. Prominent Christian leaders who had previously embraced the book were forced to reconsider their stance. Critics like John MacArthur and Phil Johnson, who had long been skeptical of heaven tourism narratives, used the scandal as a rallying cry to push for stricter theological scrutiny in Christian publishing. But for Alex, the public discourse was secondary to the personal burden he carried. His letter wasn't just a confession, it was a plea for understanding. "I want the whole world to know that the Bible is sufficient," he wrote. "Those who market these materials must be called to repent." In the end, his words were both a condemnation of the industry that had profited from his story and a reflection of his evolving faith. The revelation marked the beginning of a new chapter for the Malarkeys, one defined by legal battles, strained family ties, and a search for redemption. But it also served as a stark reminder of the human cost behind sensational stories, a cost that for Alex was far greater than any bestseller list could measure. In 2018, Alex and Beth filed a lawsuit against Tyndale House, alleging defamation and exploitation. They argued that Alex, as a minor, had not consented to the book's publication. The suit claimed that the book's promotion had caused lasting harm and that the profits had been mishandled. Most of the lawsuit's claims were dismissed, but the family's struggle continues. Kevin and Beth's conflicting accounts of the book's creation remain unresolved. Kevin insists that Alex willingly shared his visions, while Beth and Alex argue that the entire project was orchestrated without Alex's full understanding. Alex claims his initial story began as a misunderstanding. He awoke groggily in a dark hospital room and mistook his father's shadowy figure for an angel. "I thought it was an angel because I thought I was dead," Alex told Graham. "I don't know why I thought that. I did, and that's what I remember." The Malarkey scandal shook the evangelical publishing industry. Tyndale's quick decision to pull the book reflected growing skepticism within the faith community about heaven tourism narratives. In 2015, Lifeway Christian stores stopped selling books based on personal visions of the afterlife. Critics like John MacArthur and Phil Johnson argue that such stories exploit vulnerable believers and stray from biblical teachings. The idea that someone could go to heaven and come back with visions and dreams and we should take that seriously is as far from historic evangelicalism as it's possible to get, Johnson said. Despite the backlash, the genre has not disappeared. Books like The Impossible, which recounts a mother's prayer for her son's miraculous recovery, continue to captivate readers. But The Boy Who Came Back from Heaven now serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of mixing faith, family, and fame. Today, Alex Malarkey is 27 years old. He was valedictorian of his high school class, but remains a quadriplegic dependent on full-time care. Beth says she has no idea what happened to the money Kevin earned from the book, and their financial situation remains precarious. Kevin, for his part, says he's tried to move on, though he remains hurt by his son's public recantation. The Malarkey story is one of faith turned sour, a once inspiring tale that left behind broken relationships, legal battles, and a family struggling to heal. Yet for many readers, the story of Alex's supposed visit to heaven was more than a book. It was a source of hope, an assurance of the afterlife that transcended the messy reality of its origins. As Ruth Graham observed in her investigation, there will always be an appetite for stories that are not just too good to check, but literally impossible to verify. For the Malarkey family, however, the price of that appetite has been all too real.